How's it going, people? And welcome back to the project. So today's subject is how should you track your progress? So within this video, I'm going to be going through all of the parameters that we can be using to make sure that you are moving in the right direction with your body composition. And this information is going to be what you make your judgment calls off of when we then go to make changes to your nutrition or your training or your expenditure variables. Before I go into that though, if you haven't already, make sure that you subscribe to the channel so you don't miss out on any content. You can actually hit the notification bell as well, which will send you a notification every time that we upload a new video. So make sure you don't miss out. Hit the notification bar below. So one of the first things and most basic things is tracking your body weight on the scales. So taking your body weight every morning or at least a few times a week so that we can get a rolling weekly average of what direction your body weight's going in will give us a good direction of your body composition progression over time. Now, the reason why I would recommend taking it more than once a week is because our body weight fluctuates naturally from a day-to-day basis. Those fluctuations are down to multiple factors. It could be the time that you ate your last meal. It could be how much salt you had the day previously, even down to how you slept, how stressed you were the day before, your digestion. All of those things are going to cause this natural fluctuation. You can imagine if you were taking your weight once per week and you were to weigh on a day that you happen to be fluctuating a little bit higher, that's going to throw you off massively because it's going to show on the scale that you've potentially put on weight, whereas your weekly average could have actually gone down and you could have actually lost weight overall. So I recommend to clients weighing themselves at least 3 times a week, if not more. And then through a more specific process like I'm going through at the moment in terms of a photo shoot prep, I will weigh myself every single morning, daily, in order to give myself as accurate representation as possible of what my body weight is across that last 7 days. As we know, when you're working out an average, the more data you have to work off of, the more accurate that average is going to be. So if you want to be accurate, weigh every day, if not every other day. Now, one very important point to make here though, is you need to be weighing yourself first thing in the morning, after you've been to the toilet, and before you've had any food or drink. This gives us a level playing field in terms of the time and situation that you're actually taking your body weight. So I could wake up in the morning at 70 kilos and then walk downstairs, drink a litre of water, go back upstairs and weigh myself, and I would actually weigh 71 kilos. And I'm not 71 kilos, I'm 70 kilos with a litre of water inside of me or a kilo of water inside of me. So making sure you're not shooting yourself in the foot by weighing at different times of the day or in different situations is a key thing here. We can also then keep a track of that body weight through apps such as Happy Scale or MyFitnessPal, which actually then calculate for us what that 7-day rolling average is. Now, as we know, body weight isn't always the be all and end all, so it's important to be tracking other body composition measurements alongside that in order to make sure that we have as much information as possible in terms of the direction that we're going in terms of your body fat percentage or your muscle mass. One of the biggest tools we use within online coaching is visual progress via the client taking progress pictures. So what we'll do is get clients to take pictures either weekly or bi-weekly, depending on what phase they're in. Making sure those pictures are in a naturally lit room, usually facing a window or a light source, gives the best representation of how you're looking. Rather than standing under big downlighting or in shadowed areas, we need to have a consistent and accurate view of your body composition so that we can then actually compare like for like on a week-to-week basis. In terms of how you go about those pictures, I would do a set of pictures just relaxed from the front, side, and then back angles, and then I would go back through those angles and do some tensed poses. Especially if you're getting leaner and wanting to see more definition coming through, you're not going to see that if you're just standing there relaxed. So it is important to be doing some tense poses, especially through the midsection. And then if you are a bodybuilder or looking to do a photo shoot, doing some other poses, as you may have seen me do on my Instagram or YouTube previously, really helps to give yourself more angles and more poses to then compare back on and have a better understanding of whether you are moving in the right direction or not. And a nice free little trick for you guys in order to take your progress pictures when you're on your own is to actually take a video on your phone and then take screenshots of the video. So rather than having to set a timer on your phone every time, quickly run in front of the camera, stand there, pose, and then do that again 5 times, just take a video of the whole thing, pause it, screenshot it, and then send that to your coach or just put that in your progress pictures folder so that you have space to then compare those on a week-to-week basis. And then another point there, the back camera is much higher quality than the front camera. So if you can, always use this one because you're then going to be able to see that crisper, more detailed image rather than the slightly blurred image of the lower quality front camera that you may use. So to give you an example of my progress pictures, let's put a quick overlay here. I'll start at the beginning of the prep and then just go through the weeks, and you can hopefully see the progress that I've made over time. But the fact that these pictures are in the same location, same lighting, with the same posing, so that we can compare, as we said. So the next thing we can use is circumference measurements. Now, having one of these body tapes at home will be really useful for you guys, especially if you're taking these measurements yourself. So you can essentially pull out the tape, clip it back into itself, and then once it's around the body part, you just press this little button. It then ties up, and I can then see now the measurement of that. So in terms of sites that would be useful to use, if you're going through a fat loss journey, trying to get leaner, obviously going around the waist, using your belly button as the height marker. One point before I go on, making sure that you are doing the measurements in exactly the same place every time. Because if I was to test, let's say, my bicep in the middle versus 1 inch down, that's going to come out with a completely different reading. Same with your waist, same with anywhere. So trying to make sure that you're using some form of way of measuring the exact position you're taking these measurements is key. So around the waist as an example, going around your belly button, making sure that you're standing relaxed. Again, probably taking these in the morning will be best because you're not going to be bloated from food, and making sure that we're not pulling this too tight as well, because we can get inaccurate measurements if we're pulling against the skin. So with this, as I said, we can go around the waist, we could go around the widest part of your hips, we can look at your thigh, we could look at your arm, we could look at your chest circumference. All of these measurements are things that you can be jotting down and tracking and then using to track your progress over time. It's really, really motivating when you take one of these measurements and you see a physical difference, because you know that there's nothing else that can really affect that. With scale, weight and pictures, there are those variables that could throw those things off, whereas with a circumference measurement, it's always going to be fairly accurate. So it makes seeing progress in terms of those measurements really, really satisfying. And then last up, out of the things that I might use to track body composition is actually caliper measurements. So if you're not aware of what a body fat caliper looks like, I'll put a little overlay here, but it's essentially a measuring device that can track the thickness of certain sites of body fat. So we'd typically look at a umbilical reading, or just next to your belly button, an iliac crest reading, so looking at just the top of your hip. We can take multiple different sites as well. We can go the subscap on your shoulder blade, we can go the back of your tricep, your quad, but just as a way of measuring your own body fat, using an umbilical reading when you're going through a fat loss journey is going to be really accessible to you to do on yourself. And then if you do have a one-to-one personal trainer or someone that has experience with using these calipers, you can obviously get them to take that as well. Now, the original use of body fat calipers was to actually try and work out your specific body fat percentage. This can be fairly inaccurate and something that I don't actually do with any clients. I'll use it specifically just to see what direction those millimeter readings are going in. If you take an umbilical reading, for instance, and then 2 weeks later you take it again and that amount of millimeters has gone down, you know that you're losing body fat. It almost doesn't matter what body fat percentage you are. And that comes back to that visual thing. It doesn't matter if you're 8% or 10%, it matters how you look and how you feel. And outside of using something like a DEXA scan, which is probably one of the most accurate ways we do have of measuring our body fat percentage, as well as our fat-free mass and bone mass, etc., caliper measurements aren't going to be worth the inaccuracies. So if you are going to use this, use it how I do, in terms of just seeing what direction certain sites are going in. And again, much like the circumference measurements, it's so important that you're doing it in exactly the same place, in exactly the same way every single time. If I was to pinch your body fat site 1 inch to the left or 1 inch to the right, that's going to come out with a different reading. So that's where that human error can come into play. And that's why I don't really tend to use this one a lot unless a client has access to someone that has a lot of experience taking it, or if I'm training a one-to-one client and I can do it for them. And then the last point I want to make is actually something that I wouldn't recommend using to track your body composition, and that's the bioelectrical impedance analysis on the scales that you stand on. Then you hold the handles and it sends an electrical current through your body and then comes out with a reading of what your body fat is, what your muscle mass is, etc. They have been shown to be highly inaccurate. They can be affected by multiple factors, and it's just a one-way ticket of pissing yourself off when it tells you you're not making progress when you actually are. There is an argument that even though it is inaccurate, you could use it to track a trend over time. But one of the most important things to manage when going through any sort of body composition change is actually your mental state and your positivity towards that change that you're making. So anything that could easily track that off that we know is going to be inaccurate, I usually would just keep out. So there we have it, guys, all of the tools that we have available to us in order to track body composition over time. In the future, I'm going to do a more in-depth video in terms of how we would actually then use that data to inform us of what changes we need to make to our training and nutrition and expenditure variables over time. And also what other data points that I might track with myself or with clients in order to help that journey. And within that video, I'll speak about things such as tracking your biofeedback markers, your sleep markers, your training markers, etc. Essentially, all of those other things that we need to be keeping an eye on to make sure that we're functioning as best as possible and progressing as best as possible. So as always, guys, I hope that was valuable. Any questions that you have, pop them in the comments below or send me a DM on Instagram. And as always, do that YouTuber stuff, like, comment, subscribe, and I'll see you in the next one.
Look, tell a man no trouble. I don't want beef, man. I just want vibes. Big man like me, no need for the telephone hype. I got too much getting online. One rule